What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Toxic Tay with your favorite homegirl, Tay Bay. Where we acknowledge that our shit don't stink, but it's still shit. So this week we don't have any audio files. Y'all know we started from the bottom coming up on this podcast, and for some reason Anchor is a little weird right now with the whole little recording and stuff. It might be the laptop. I'm gonna blame it on the app. Either way it go, yeah. So no audio files this week. Maybe I can see if I can download the audio from this video later, but I don't really know. That's been being weird too. But we got visuals nonetheless. I hope y'all having a great week. I just had to throw that in there and let y'all know, because I do know I have some listeners on Spotify, and I just want to let y'all know. Unfortunately, you're going to have to be on YouTube this week. But, I hope y'all having a great week. It's Wednesday for y'all, Sunday for me, and this past week I didn't drop an episode because this week we're going to be talking about feelings and healing. And, I hit a point where I really realized, in all that comes with accountability, and all that comes with finding balance for yourself, and all, that comes with choosing to love yourself, like a big piece of that is being able to accept and stand on the feelings that are accompanied by every decision and choice that you make for yourself once you just start to choose to do better. And, I think it gets kind of hard to keep doing that, when those feelings start to feel kind of unpleasant. I think it's one thing to have unpleasant thoughts, to have negative thoughts, and then it's another thing to have unpleasant or negative feelings. You can very much so easily correct, your thoughts. All you have to do is change your wording and stuff like that. But when it comes to correcting and fixing our feelings, I'm learning that's where, boundaries. That's where, accountability, that's where it really get real. That's where it really matters and stuff, because, how we think and stuff and whatnot changes from the day to day. How we feel and stuff changes from the day to day. But, I think the core of ourselves with everybody, or, I don't know, y'all, maybe too deep for some, I don't really know. But I know for me, when I really start getting into it with myself, I think, my feelings really, they don't too much change, so to say, but they just start to get shown and expressed in different ways as I grow and learn myself. That is just, life is, for me, has just been full of feeling the same emotions, but just in different ways, through different things and whatnot. And as I'm growing and trying to find more accountability, more healing, more love within myself, I'm really starting to realize and understand what that really does mean. And a lot of it is just simply being able just to feel. And also accept sometimes, with your feelings, you don't have the words for it. You don't know how to put it into words. And last week, I was going to record an episode, but I felt sometimes when you get to talking about healing and growth, being able just to express, what that's what that, how you're experiencing that, it get a little tough. And I think that's what make dialogue so interesting. That's what made, community so important. It's because, while everybody has a different experience and whatnot, we all could take a little something from the people around us. And when I feel we all can take something from the people around us, simply because, we all are experience the same emotions, just in different ways. And so when you really are able to, get in tune with yourself and start to realize that, and then, you start to apply all of these things to everything that you're doing in life, you just start to realize, God dang, you either gonna meet people that, they're gonna make you realize you got demons, or they're gonna make you realize they got demons. I don't really know how that was gonna go and spill over for y'all, but I'm trying to give it to y'all how it's coming. But when you meet people and or you get in situations and you start to involve your feelings in those things, and honestly, y'all, this is a struggle point with the podcast that I find sometimes in talking about these things is, I can't really authentically talk about all of the amazing and beautiful things that I'm doing if I can't authentically talk and speak on my feelings. But I think that's hard sometimes to do, when you kind of feel I don't want to say this or say that. I don't want to talk about growing and healing from friendships. I don't want to talk about growing and healing from relationships. I don't even want to talk about growing and healing from my past traumas, in a way that could ever make somebody feel bad, question, or wonder where they stand in my life. And that's simply because, your own individual feelings. And I think that's like the real like tricky part to it, where you start to do better. Why, being able to choose you is so important. It's because, when you choose to love, you choose to care, and especially if you choose to do it, after being through some traumatic things. And for me, I haven't really got into it yet on the podcast, and that's just further reflection of just, I'm accepting, like, as I just said, you don't always have the words and stuff, yeah, and it's okay to sometimes not have the words. It's okay to not know how to say things, but, before we get into that content and stuff, before I get into all of that, like, just being able to work through my current situations, being able to work through my current relationships, being able to work through, the current pieces of myself that I was dealing with, like, being able to voice the feelings or so that came with it. Like, a lot of it was just like, I am in, the time frame of my life where I am doing better and stuff. And a lot of that, you do have to look back and reflect all the moments where you didn't do that and all the feelings that came with it. And something for me is I'm realizing that as much as, you hurt, as much as, we have our own experience and our own emotions, so do other people. And when it comes to our mental health, when it comes, to dealing with our traumas and the people that were involved and around during that time, like, so for me, some of those people, they done fell off, they gone. Others, they still here. They've been able to survive and keep up, during that redefinement, whether that was there by a mutual choice for us to make it work or just, and that's it did. Some of them, they didn't because they couldn't. And, being able to speak and articulate myself on this in a way that is authentic and fair to me and my feelings, but, in no way gonna feel like, oh, like, I'm bashing or throwing shots at the people in past days of my life. It kind of felt like it was a little hard, and I found myself constantly kind of like stumbling over my words or trying to, say it without saying it sometimes. And, I feel like I started to do a disservice to the podcast. So this episode definitely is like me, me acknowledging like the feeling parts that has came with all that I've been knowing and learning and stuff about myself, and figuring out how to do better. And even right now, not really being able to have the words 100% for it, to put it into, the content properly, to say it how I'm really trying to say it, I'm okay with it right now. I'm okay with, this episode. I'm okay with how it's going. But before we get ready to start opening up more topics, because as you guys know, when I started this podcast, I did start it with the idea of wanting to talk about, the things in my life I experienced as a young woman that I felt like helped shape me and make me into who I am. And while, I felt like I definitely had the articulation for it, I definitely, could give it to you straightforward, how all of that, I've been able to put together to get to this point. Something that I was kind of struggling with was being able to get through the feelings with it too. Because with everything in life, there's always the good and the bad. And I think, like, the good and the bad to, like, knowing and doing better, it's like, the good is that, you know better and stuff sometimes. The bad sometimes can be, like, you don't always feel better and stuff when you do better. And that's, like, the key thing, the feeling and stuff. Because I feel like, it's one thing to think negatively. It's one thing to think bad. It's one thing, to have a negative thought process. It's another thing to have like mild feelings, to have bad feelings, and we are working to try to correct and change those. It's not always easy to acknowledge them and work through them and get through them, but B, be able to put them into words and stuff in the way that you need to. And I definitely want to keep this like an open ground to where I feel like the parts and aspects of growth, healing, mental health that we don't really get into and talk about. And honestly, while we can get topic specific in things like sexual assault, things like, being a woman and what that means, things like physical health and whatnot, things like body image and stuff like that, dating and relationships, at the core of all of it, is ourselves. And originally I didn't really, I ain't gonna say I didn't like, but I was really stuck on like, okay, I know what the content is that I want, but how do I want to put it out there? And I kind of started beating myself up because I felt like I was focusing too much on self. Like, I felt like I was getting too deep in the bag of just like, being able to pick you, being able to love you, too deep in the bag of like, just, you and me, or maybe I should say me and stuff when it comes to healing and growth. But I had to, really realize that, that's where it all begins. It all begins and starts with yourself and everything, that you do. I said in the accountability video that accountability begins and ends with you, but, that's also with balance. Balance begins and ends with you. Picking yourself begins and ends with you. And once you can work through that part, once you can get through those aspects of knowing, that it begins and ends with you, the next part to that, the whole mental process, that whole knowing and understanding, the next part to that is, is the doing. But in the doing is being able to stand on the feelings that come. Because, I'm learning, or at least for me, I can't really say this is applying to y'all, but for me, it's like, being able to enforce boundaries right now in my life, being able to, follow through on the standards that I'm setting for myself, being able to keep holding myself accountable is all, coming from my ability to A, acknowledge how I feel in things, B, stand on them, and then C, do the things that I gotta do for them. And, like I said, y'all, that's not always easy. Like, I'd be lying to y'all if I sat here and said, like, this year has made the most sense to me. No, well, I take that back. Actually, this year has made the most sense to me. Because, you understand in the sense that people will tell you, oh, yeah, when you start doing better for yourself, everybody can't come with you. When you start doing better for yourself, things are going to change, life happens and whatnot. But the peace and stuff and aspects I don't feel like we really, really talk about is like, those feelings. The feelings that go up and down, the feelings that, remain the same. When you get triggered or you get, put in situations where you got to redefine or realign with old feelings, not old thought processes, not old patterns of behaviors, but correct, past feelings, work through, past feelings when they start to creep up and interfere with the things that you're doing and got going on for yourself. That becomes a different ball game. And that's like why I think is why it's so important, to have open and honest dialogue. And even more so why I didn't drop an episode last week is because I really do, want to stick to authenticity and the whole point of Talks to Take. And that's having these conversations, being able to say, sometimes I really don't know what's going on. Sometimes, I don't, really know what's the next step in life. Or sometimes it's just I don't know how to feel. I don't know how I feel and stuff and whatnot. And sometimes it's more on the lens of, I do know what I need to do. I do know what I gotta do for myself. And the other times it's like, what, I do know how I feel. I do know how I want to move and stuff like that. And it gets really hard, I think when we start to put that out there in the air, when you start to apply it to your, relationships, when you start to apply it to your opportunities and stuff in life, to be able to ride with the feelings and stuff, it's just because, love and caring about people it gets so interesting. And that's why I think, like, it gets so nasty sometimes when you get to really picking yourself, is because everybody's feelings is involved. Like, when you really think about it, what makes it so hard sometimes for us to pick and choose ourselves is, being able to validate and accept our feelings at the expense and over other people's. And that's not always easy. Like, it is really not. Like, while it sounds great and it feels good, we can put it out there in the mental sense, like, yeah, duh, that makes sense, to actually stand on those feelings sometimes it's hard. Because, with people, with relationships, it's learning how to take the good with the bad. And while we can sit here and say, like, oh, you don't need nobody, you don't need other people, like, no, you definitely need, other people and stuff in your life. I'm at a point where I realize in order for me to continue to do the things I gotta do for myself, it is centered around my ability to maintain, healthy relationships, healthy opportunities and stuff around myself. But you can't, I ain't gonna say you can't, maintaining them and stuff and doing it and being able to release and let go when needed and as needed. Like, I don't know about y'all, but like, it hurt. It like, I really understand now when our parents used to be like, this gonna hurt me more than it hurt you. Like, that is the whole more of the story when it comes to learning yourself, figuring out how to pick yourself, is when you start to apply that to everything and everybody else around you, you really do have to go into the mentality like, it's definitely gonna hurt me more than it's gonna hurt y'all and me choosing to do better for myself. Like, when you can get past yourself, that's fine, that's okay and stuff. But when it comes, to those bonds over relationships that you done had and you done built over time, and you gotta let go of them, they can't go with you and stuff to the next level. They don't want to go with you and stuff to the next level. They not meant to go with you and stuff to the next level. Being able to, cope with that and deal with that, it is not, as easy as just being FNF. It's not as easy as saying that, being a super gremlin on their ass and whatnot. Like, sometimes, like, that shit really do come with a little bit of an emotional toll. And that's where, we got to get into the whole conversations of accountability, the whole conversations of balance, the whole conversations of, how to deal with your mental health. And honestly, that leads us right into the quote of the day, which is, your traumas don't define you, you define your traumas. And that simply just says, I ain't gonna say simply, and that's saying, like, no matter what happens, no matter how life happens, like, you are the narrator and the author. I've used this one before, and I'm gonna use it again in this episode because that is so important when it comes to our feelings. And because, when you go through those traumatic things, you go through those heartbreaking moments, you go through those growing pains, those moments, of when the better don't always feel great, the confidence don't always feel secure and stuff. You battling your insecurities, battling your past self, like, being able to work with and stand on those emotions and know, like, it's not just being able to pick myself and love myself and do great for myself and when I'm feeling, just good, when I'm thinking, good about myself, but I have to also be able to do that when, I'm not feeling good, I'm not feeling great about myself. And when you get surrounded by people or you're, surrounded in situations and stuff that don't reflect that, you got to figure out how to make that choice. And especially, I think it's harder, to pick yourself with people that have, I want to say this right too, because this is what I'm learning too, y'all. Like, this is, like I said, that's why I didn't drop an episode last week. Like, just being able to really sometimes articulate your feelings. Like, sometimes the word's not there, and that's 100% okay. Like, that's fine. But when you are putting it there, like, sometimes, like, you got to take a pause. You got to take a moment with yourself when speaking on your feelings. And I think it's, it's one thing to have to, pick feelings over feelings that are just ill intent. Like, people that like they say, keep your friends close, keep your enemies close, but your friends closer. Keep your it's keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And that's because, like, it's easy to pinpoint what your enemies gonna do. You can see them, but like your motherfucking friends, like, them niggas right now, like, friends and family and shit, like, the people that you love and you care about, like, when you gotta get in the moments when you gotta heal from them, like, it ain't, like, that right there, like, and it's something, the feelings that come with that, and that's why they tell you everybody can't go with you, because that is it right there, it's the feelings. It ain't too much the situation, because what you're learning to see is, like, you can have two different people give you the same situation and you experience two totally different feelings about it. Exact same situation and whatnot, but just two totally different outcomes, two totally different feelings. And, as I'm continuing to grow and learn, like, that is a big piece, a big aspect of growth, a big aspect of self-love, a big aspect of accountability that I'm learning how to work through. And that's just to simply be in your feelings. Like, it's okay. It's all right. Like, shit. Every day, every time, you're not going to have the words. Even now, I find myself sometimes not having the words when I'm sitting and talking about things on a podcast. And it's not that I don't have nothing to say, but when you really, truly do get to talking about accountability and doing better, once you moving past the knowing and stuff, accepting every feeling, emotion, and thought that come with that, and behavior that you got to correct and change, like, it is a whole process. It is a mental and emotional process. Like, it get ugly out here. Like, for real. And, you guys, I don't really know about y'all, but I'm really in a season where, I'm learning how to just, accept all of that. You got to accept all of it. You can't accept some of it. Because I know for me, in the past, like, I used to only want to accept bits and pieces. Like, I didn't want to take the whole thing. I just only would want to take, the parts that were able to make the most sense. And I ain't going to say feel the best because, I think I came, from a pretty good cloth in life. I think my parents really raised me to understand, like, this is life, but life is going to happen or whatnot. You got to be able to, keep going. So I never really tried to lie to myself about situations or whatnot. Like, I try to always accept them for what they are, but getting into the accepting the feelings and stuff that come behind them, like, that right there, like, y'all, and you apply how you see fit. You know, for me currently in this season, it's about being able to stand and have those boundaries in my relationships, because, you know, I'm knocking it out the ballpark when it comes to doing me. Like, you know, your girl is out here on her thing. She doing the damn thing, but, you know, getting past myself and getting into everybody else, you know, that's where the next couple episodes of Talks to Tay are leading, you know, starting out, getting into everybody else. What happens once you get past yourself? You get past your own accountability. You get past your own needing to do better. You get past, you know, your own aspects of balance. You start getting into everybody and everything else. Like, that's when that's when they get real. So, you know, I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I hope that it was worth listening to. Again, like, you know, I'm growing and I really am finding the words on how to have this conversation. So I hope y'all keep bearing with me. No cap. You know, the next couple episodes, I will tell y'all, like, you know, they're gonna be a little triggering. They are. I said it, I believe, last episode, which was not last week because I didn't drop one, but the week before last, that, you know, we're about to start getting to a little bit more sensitive conversations and topics, and that's simply because as I found the words for it, y'all about to start hearing it. So yeah, welcome to Talk to Tay. This is what it's all about, you know. And now that is what the saying means. When I say we acknowledge that our shit don't stink, but it's still shit, we acknowledge that, oh yeah, like, we definitely are great and amazing people. You definitely are whoever and what you think you are. But in that, like, you know, you also aren't and not the things that you are and not. You know? So I don't know if I should explain the analogy with an analogy. I don't know. It's still growing. But just know when we say on Talk to Tay that your shit don't stink, but it's still shit. It's just, you know that you all that in a bag of chips. You for real. Like, no, your shit really don't stink, but bitch, it's shit. Like, we're not gonna leave that part out. Like, we're not gonna leave that part out and whatnot. Like, we're gonna make it look good, we're gonna make it sound good, and we're gonna make it sound good. But we also gonna acknowledge, like, you know, the piss that's in the pool. Like, for real. But keep working out with yourselves. I hope that, you know, you guys have a great week. I really am looking forward to the upcoming content. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I'm a little nervous just cause, you know, I also been this weird, like, really embracing my inner lady, my inner feminine energy, my inner, you know, young gal and stuff again. So, like, you know, while I still call myself a homegirl, I'm really, like, you know, more like your sis, your auntie. Like, no, I'm just kidding. But, you know, as I'm really, like, getting through this, you know, and getting more, you know, softer with myself in that stage, like, y'all, like, it's gonna keep growing and keep going. So I hope that y'all have a great week, and I'm gonna wrap this episode up. You know, your girl gotta go to work today. It is Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Shout out to my pops especially. Love you, Dad. And yeah, we'll see y'all next week.